Yo, what is up, guys? It's Pedro here. Today, I'm going to be talking about when will Kyle Smith be named the GM, and if he isn't named the GM, what are some other possible GM candidates for the Redskins to hire? If you guys are new, subscribe for Redskins and NFL content. So let's get into it. As you guys all know, the Redskins do not currently have an acting GM. Kyle Smith is in charge, but his title is not GM. It is Vice President of Player Personnel, and he was promoted this offseason after the Redskins fired Bruce Allen. He got promoted on January 13th. And if you look at this tweet from Adam Schefter, this was a while back. But this is what he said. Redskins now are planning to wait until after the draft to hire a general manager. The team's thinking is that it still has people in place for now, though anyone in the front office is in jeopardy after the draft, and there will be more changes. So obviously this was a while back, but it is accurate. They did not hire anyone before then to become the GM, and it looks like in the next couple of weeks, months, and maybe after this offseason, we will end up uh, hiring someone as GM. And the longer it takes for us to promote or to hire a GM, the more it looks like Kyle Smith will be the GM because he just finished a draft. So I really think it's going to end up being Kyle Smith. And now I'm going to be talking about when I think that will be, and then we'll end up giving some potential GM candidates after that. So Adam Schefter said it would be after the draft, and here are some quotes from Ron Rivera after the draft. He said when it comes to if he thinks that Kyle Smith should be the GM, he said, "That's really not up to me," Rivera said. That's something that Mr. Snyder and I will talk about, obviously. And then he also said, Rivera spoke highly of Smith after the draft and continued those comments on Wednesday, saying both the coaching staff and the front office were largely on the same page when it came to the draft board, and adding that Smith did a great job. This is also a very important report right here. Washington Post report suggested there's a growing sense around the front office that Rivera might soon give Smith the title of general manager. The idea makes sense as Smith proved able to run free agency and pull off multiple trades, Trent Williams, Quentin Dunbar, and Kyle Allen, in addition to running the draft. So that really does seem like he is going to be named GM soon, but Ron Rivera is still probably testing him. We'll see. He could end up promoting him to GM soon, maybe before the season starts, or he might want to see how he handles the trade deadline or other parts of the season before he truly wants him to be named GM. I think, though, ultimately it most likely will be Kyle Smith. They obviously have a prior relationship because when Ron Rivera was with the Chargers, his Kyle Smith's dad was the GM, so they have a good relationship. And I think that if nothing goes wrong, I think Kyle Smith will end up being the GM. He's been with the Redskins for about 10 seasons, and he spent 3 seasons as the team's director of college personnel, and this year he's the vice president of player personnel. So he's been quietly moving up the ranks, and I'm really excited to see what he's done. I probably already put it up on the screen, but those are some of the players that he's drafted. Some really good picks: Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Jimmy Moreland, Matt Ioannidis, a lot of good players. Cole Holcomb, a lot of late round talent, and especially this year, and Montez Sweat also. So he's got a lot of good players, and that was when he really didn't have full control. Yes, he did create the draft board, but he wasn't the guy making the final call. This year, him and Ron Rivera together were making the final call on the picks. So I honestly do believe that he has a very good chance of becoming GM as long as he does keep up what he's doing. I think it could end up being in the next coming weeks/months, or it could be as late as after this season ends. But honestly, like I said, the longer it takes for the Redskins to actually hire a GM, the more likely it seems that Kyle Smith is going to be it because maybe after next season, but really, if anyone's hired in the next few months, it's gonna be Kyle Smith, just because GMs usually don't like to join a team after the draft. They want to have full control over everything, and especially what their quarterback situation is. So I really doubt it unless someone's super high on Haskins, which I do have a couple GM candidates that could be good for the Redskins. So Like I said though, I think Kyle Smith will end up being the GM and most likely will be named GM maybe before the season. If not, it'll be after the season. But this article over here said that a lot of people think that he's going to end up being named GM soon. So, yeah, so now on to some potential GM candidates for the Redskins. So, some obvious names. Louis Riddick, he has some ties to the Redskins. He was from 2001 to 2007. He was a scout and director of pro personnel for the Redskins. He was also in the Eagles front office, so he has really good experience. He's applied for or he's interviewed for the Giants GM spot before, so he's a good candidate for this job, and I think he still wants to stay at ESPN though, because he does a lot of good things there. But if we offered him a GM spot, I think he would take it just because he really, really, really likes Dwayne Haskins. I think he went to his pro day and said it was one of the best pro days he's ever seen. He loves Dwayne Haskins. He kind of criticized the Redskins on how they handled the Dwayne Haskins situation last year, but I really just think he would be a great general manager. He was one of the guys that helped draft Sean Taylor with the Redskins, so I think it would be a good pick. And the reason why think he would be a great pick is just because of his faith in Dwayne Haskins. The GM has to be confident in the quarterback, and he definitely is. So that's one candidate. The next guy is Rick Smith. There was a rumor that the Redskins almost hired Rick Smith before they ended up hiring Ron Rivera. But I think Ron Rivera really wanted to have full control on who he picked. So I think that's why we didn't end up signing him. Rick Smith could have been the president as well. We also do not have an acting president. Rick Smith was a GM for the Texans for a really long time. I think started in 2006. He drafted some very good players. Brian Cushing, J.J. Watt, a lot of other great players. Traded for Matt Schwab, which got them to the playoffs. So he has drafted some really good players, and he's been a pretty good GM. And he got let go by Bill O'Brien, and you've seen what Bill O'Brien has done since he left. They have made the playoffs and did beat the Bills, but he has made some very questionable trades with DeAndre Hopkins and Jadeveon Clowney. So yeah, that's one candidate, and it's definitely possible, but I think, yeah. The next one is Jeff Ireland. If you guys don't know who Jeff Ireland is, he's a Saints assistant GM, and you guys know how good they are at drafting. They drafted Marshawn Lattimore and Alvin Kamara in the same year, I think in the same year, and also drafted Michael Thomas. They have a really, really good at drafting. And one other really important name is that could end up popping up if the Panthers fire him is the Panthers GM Matt Hurney. I believe that is his name. He is the Panthers GM, and I think has obvious ties to Ron Rivera, so it definitely could be something that pops up. And maybe if he gets fired, I think Ron Rivera might even want him over Kyle Smith. Let me know what you guys think about that. But again, overall, I do think Kyle Smith will end up getting the GM nod, whether it's in a couple weeks or whether it's after the next season. I think it'll end up happening unless something crazy happens. He's had a very good track record, picked some really, really, really good guys, and this was really his first year where he had a lot of say in who they were drafting. It was really him and Ron Rivera, and he has been. Of course, he hasn't had the title of GM through this process, but he really is the GM right now. Since we don't have an acting GM, he's been in all the interviews at the press conferences and stuff like that, where GMs normally are, and he's done most of the decisions in free agency, along with Ron Rivera and in the draft. Again, guys, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know who you think the Redskins will hire as a GM, and if you think it's Kyle Smith, when do you think that'll happen? Let me know down in the comments below. And guys, tomorrow I will probably be posting Dwayne Haskins video. It's going to be a really, really good video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. That's going to be a really, really exciting video. And yeah, let me know some other video suggestions down in the comments below, and give me some other GM candidates you think the Redskins should hire. Again, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate you guys clicking on the video. Subscribe if you're new. Turn on those post notifications, and peace. Stay safe.